Hey there, as we dive into this week's teaching on the fruit joy, I'm going to start by reading Psalm 30. I'm going to start on verse 4 and read through 5. So this is Psalms 30, 4 through 5. Sing praises to the Lord, O you his saints, and give thanks to his holy name. For his anger is but for a moment, and his favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Now, if I want to get one point across as I go through the different fruits of the Spirit over the next couple of months, I want to be very clear that if we want to produce good fruit, fruit that is recognized as holy from the Lord, then it needs to be done with intention. So I may say the word intention or intentional quite a bit, but I just want to reiterate that in order to produce the fruit, we need to be intentional about how we grow it. And honestly, the only way to grow good fruit is to abide in the Lord. But joy is one of those fruits that doesn't always come naturally. It doesn't always just spew out of us. And I think like this week's events that happened in Texas was just another reminder that this world is evil, that it's sad, that there's a lot of corruption. And while we wish that things could just be good and happy all the time, it's just simply not. And because of that, we have to be intentional about creating joy in our life or choosing joy. I think that's a common phrase that you hear just out and about. I painted signs for a while and I can't remember how many times I wrote the phrase choose joy. And it's so true. To choose joy, to walk in joy, has to be a choice. It has to be intentional. We have to foster it in our own lives. And if you have the spring issue of By Design Journal and you're going through the different teachings that I wrote, you will see that joy in particular isn't always something that's easy for me. I suffer from depression and anxiety, and just the circumstances around me oftentimes really weigh on me. And I'm sure that I'm not alone in saying that. I'm sure that many of you also feel impacted by the situations around you, whether it's a death of a loved one, somebody's ill. Maybe you're also feeling the stress of the economy, and maybe your meager budget that you were living on once before is being stretched even thinner, and you're feeling that, and it's hard to find joy and happiness in the season. Maybe you're suffering from infertility and you want so badly to just hold a baby of your own in your arms. I don't want to discount any of those situations. I understand your pain. I know how hard this life can be. And I just want you to know that the Lord also knows that pain. And he also knows that this world is a painful place, and that as a result of sin, we will face trials of many kind. But that does not discount his goodness. And I think that's something that we need to be reminded of, and that we need to be intentional about seeking when we find ourselves in a funk, or we find ourselves in just a terrible situation, because there are terrible situations. So I want to share with you today just a couple of things that have helped me to foster joy in my life during seasons that may not have been very happy, because there's a difference between happiness and joy. And happiness may be circumstantial, but joy doesn't matter what the circumstances are. We can still remain joyful in the Lord. So a couple of things that have really worked well for me. Number one being I have a tendency to be very negative and a worrier and a worst case scenario type person. So when I find myself getting sucked into the abyss of woe is me and this is going to be horrible, I stop for a moment. Number one, I take deep breaths. 5 is usually what I start with, and if I feel like I need a few more, then I do that. But I take 5 deep breaths, and then I just begin speaking goodness. I begin counting the blessings that I do have in my life. I thank the Lord for my children. I thank the Lord for the health that I do have. I thank the Lord for my husband and his business and how it's been enough to sustain us in this season. I thank the Lord for the beautiful flowers in my garden. I thank the Lord for my coffee. Whatever it is, there's so much to be thankful for. And even if it's the fact that you were able to take those 5 deep breaths, what a blessing that is. So that's where I start. Another thing that I have done is I turn to scripture. So we think that we can do it all on our own, right? And, while it's very helpful for me to take those deep breaths to center myself and to refocus on the good, those are also very self-reliant tactics. And we have a God that is very dependable. So we must depend on him and the scriptures and the words that he's left us. So I have a list in a little journal that I have kept, and I call it my prayer journal. And really it's just a journal filled with scriptures that have spoken to me at different times, and I use those scriptures as prayers. So they're not really like prayers that I have written out, but they are prayers that I can run to when I need a moment to just kind of refocus myself. Another thing that I do to kind of calm myself and to refocus myself is to do an activity that I enjoy. I tend to feel that doing something outside in nature is really relaxing for my soul, and it reminds me of how big of a God I serve. I like to look at like the details of the leaves or the flower petals, or even just the clouds and the vastness of the sky. Just a beautiful reminder that God is so much bigger than the circumstances that I'm currently facing. So I just hope that you can find some encouragement. I know especially this week things have been heavy. And life can be hard, and I will never be one to discount that. So I just pray that you hear my heart when I give you these little tips, and know that I know that the battles you face in your mind and then the situations around you are very real, and they're very big, and they're very scary, and I get that. But we also have an incredible God who we can find immense amount of joy in despite our circumstances.